The following program is a public access production. Comcast is required to provide time on this channel and make it available pursuant to franchise agreements with the communities we serve. Comcast is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of Comcast or its affiliates.
Welcome to Contempo. I am your host, Roberta Markbreit. Thank you so much for being with us and for sharing with us. Please help me welcome our very special guest, Matt Cole. You are with the Ethical Society, the Ethical Humanist Society of Chicago, am I right?
You got it.
And
perfect.
I'm sorry if I blurbed or whatever. The wonderful thing about the organization, if you will, that we're going to talk about, you emphasize community and individuality parallel. Explain about the society.
Well, the Ethical Humanist Society, it's much older than people know. It started in 1877 in New York. Chicago started in 1882. So we've been around, it's around longer than even longer than I've been around. It's a wonderful place, and it started by the son of a rabbi in New York, and his idea was to have the kind of the ethics of Judaism, the goodness of Judaism, that fairness, but he didn't want the tribalism. And to not have the tribalism, we had to reach out to the community and reach out to other people. So that's what we do.
How would you define tribalism?
Tribalism is looking inward and you get your power from who you are and not what you do, and we work on what we do. And it's corny, but our main statement, and it came from this Felix Adler, who started the thing in the 1870s, is it's deed, not creed, and that was an extension of this Kantian philosophy that morality could be separated from theology.
Well, it's very interesting because you're very much in the here and now and not in the past or the future. What about that, and why? Because
I think humans can only do now. We're not concerned about what's going to happen after we go. We don't know. I mean, if you believe in a hereafter, that's fine. If you don't, that's okay too. And where we came from, that's a mystery. And most ethical society members and humanists enjoy the mystery. So we don't want to solve the mystery, do we? Well, or do we? Well, every time we keep it, it's a game, because every time we solve it, we wind up asking another question.
And it never ends, really.
It never ends. So if you discover an atom, you say, well, what makes up the atom, and what makes that subatomic particle? So it's interesting.
Well, you are science-based, right? And you yourself were a teacher. You taught what?
I taught science.
Taught what parts of science?
I taught middle school science, but I really liked physics. That was my my thing.
But it's interesting that, and I'm a little confused by that, it's science-based. I don't like to call it an organization. What would you generally?
We're a fellowship. That's what we call ourselves.
A fellowship.
I don't know why, but we call ourselves a fellowship.
But the science part of it, and you've emphasized that. Why? What is that all about?
Albert Einstein said if he belonged to religion, he would have belonged to ours. And I think the science part is, since we don't focus on creed, you have to focus on something else. And creed can't be tested. So, science is knowledge to us. We're trying to find out how to be better people, how to make this world better, how to protect our lives, and that's all science.
It's all science. You have believers and non-believers alike. could you describe some of the places people that come to you have come from?
My wife comes from, well, I come from a Jewish background, but I was never really practicing. My wife still belongs to a temple. We have many people who come from Catholic backgrounds. We have Eastern Orthodox people. We have one person who's of a Hindu background, and they're from everywhere.
Well, I entered your building the one and only time. There is such a feeling of freedom that I can't even describe, and one feels that there are no rules. You're not judged. Isn't that true?
Well, the rule is you have to respect other people, and if you can't do that, that's a problem. But we don't. There's no hierarchy of beliefs at all.
Well, you don't have ceremonies or rites or rituals.
Right.
And why?
Again, this Felix, that comes from the way beginnings. Felix Adler said that rituals tend to be tribally specific. So if you walked into a building, you would know right away if it's Catholic, or if it's Greek Orthodox, or if it's Jewish or Islamic. So visitors aren't necessarily welcome. Well, our place is very neutral. So everybody's welcome, and it's easy.
And you get along. How many members do you have? About?
In Chicago, we have about 125, 130, and we're growing really quickly. We have 40 kids in Sunday school.
You
so
do?
That's really nice.
What do the kids study in Sunday school? And you said they sing songs, but they're not religious.
Every Sunday we have a speaker. We have no, quote, formal leader. We have no leader at all. So our speakers can be on science, or be on politics or economics, or it could be a kids program. And a lot of the platforms, as we call them, would not be quite interesting to kids. Mm-hmm. So our kids come in the beginning. We sing I think you had mentioned kind of a camp type song that everybody feels relaxed, and visitors know that we have kids involved. The kids intend to leave, and that's it.
It's a wonderful start to a program.
It's fun.
Also, children are not forced to stay. You said that when they get older, they can decide to stay or leave, and there's no pressure. They're not forced to stay.
There's no pressure for anybody to stay. We never proselytize. If people want to come and visit, please come and visit. Nobody's going to shove anything down your throat. It's a very open place.
This is almost too idealistic to be true, but it is true.
It's true.
It can happen.
It works.
You also, when I say everybody, emphasize action instead of just talking. Elaborate on that as well.
Well, first of all, I think the main thing we do is we educate the public, educate ourselves, educate each other. The kids. The kids in their Sunday school are always, packing lunches for people who don't have enough food. They have a coming of age project, as you would have as a communion or a bar mitzvah.
Oh.
But the component of that is the kids have to design something for the community, and follow through, and they report on it, and everybody celebrates it, and that's their coming of age.
Could you give an example of one of those projects or some of those projects?
It could be from building bat houses to raising money for a homeless shelter, to starting a tutoring program. I think somebody did one last year on trying to raise money for non-killed shelters for animals.
Oh, I see. So it's all about public service, which you're very strong about. Very strong.
The name of our Sunday school is it's just simply the Golden Rule Sunday School.
Oh.
And that Golden Rule is very central to us. You do unto others, and that's what we do.
Was it must have been very unusual for Rabbi Adler to create all this in a much more rigid time that he was teaching?
Well, Rabbi Adler was the dad of Felix. And Felix gave one sermon, And when he went, and when, as a son, it was his first sermon. When he gave that sermon and said basically God wasn't important, that was his last sermon. And he became a professor at Cornell. And then later became a professor of ethics at Columbia University for many years.
I see. That took a lot of courage to speak up and to be.
A lot of courage, but he got a lot of backing actually from his congregation.
How did his father receive him or not receive him?
I think he accepted him over the years.
Oh, he did?
He did.
He really did.
It was just shocking in the beginning.
Oh, but did this all happen in New York?
In New York.
It all started in New York.
Right, in the 1870s.
How were you drawn to, you've been the president.
I was the president for a few years, and I was on the board, and I'm on a lot of committees. I think there's always something missing in my life, and that was a congregation, a fellowship of people who think like me and think a little differently. I've always thought of myself as a non-joiner, and most people who join the Ethical Society are non-joiners.
So they're individuals.
We're individuals, but we like to come together for some kind of purpose. We like to argue. We like to disagree. We like to learn, and it works really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
is it a shock? How do people who are drawn to your congregation, are there surprises? Are they surprised when they first?
I think they're surprised how comfortable it is. It's a great place for people, for young marrieds, who have come from different faiths. It's great for people who come from with different colors. It's excellent for people who, we've never been homophobic in the least. So we welcome people of, all colors, all faiths, whatever you are. Just be a good person.
That's the important thing. One of your brochures has just lovely descriptions of what you do. In the beginning of this one, under spiritual answers, we value every precious moment of our lives and commit ourselves to living thoughtfully and fully. How do you interpret that, or is there nothing beyond that?
I think Felix Adler rather would say to be a good person, you have to inculcate good values in other people, and you have to value them, or it doesn't work. So,
okay,
that's a little more spiritual than I get.
What about spirituality?
That's a split.
How do you mean?
There are some people who really think spirituality adds a great deal to life. Other people, other of our members feel that even the word spirit implies an otherworldliness and choose not to. And that's probably one area that has not contention, but it has a range. I don't think you'll find very many people who are highly religious in our organization, but you will find people who have really difference about in what spirituality means.
Religious spirituality? Are you saying that people, when you say they're not religious, what do you mean?
I think most people don't believe in a personal God in our place, but I think everybody is touched by the grandeur of this of the sun coming up. And some people do believe, are deists, but not too many. We're also, the second part of our name is the Ethical Humanist Society. And humanists are not as congregational, but they're educational, and they are much, much more science-based and pretty well anti-deist. More, I don't like the word atheist. Okay. So maybe that doesn't fit, but they just they don't want to go to the supernatural. They think it doesn't provide any answers.
Would you say that was a definition of humanists?
Humanists concentrate on humans.
On humans, okay.
That humans have the capacity to change this world, and.
It's a freedom.
It's a freedom and a duty.
And a duty, and a duty. Also, ethical culture is a way of life. We do not dictate a belief system. of right and wrong. That's very important, isn't it?
Right. We don't. It's not. There's not a simple. There's no 10 Commandments, but there are some. But people know there are basic. There are basic rights. Basic.
Morality.
There is a basic morality. It's the perfect word. You respect all humans. You see the capacity for good in all people, and you work at that capacity.
In other words, there isn't a definite right and a definite wrong as far as ritual.
As far as ritual, but
yeah.
But it's not like relative, moralism, if that's the word. Humans have the capacity to know what's right and what's wrong. The Holocaust is wrong. Nobody's going to debate that. It's wrong. So what happened out in Colorado is wrong.
Would you say immoral?
Would I say that? I'm not talking for your organization, but I say immoral.
Okay. Insisting instead that each of us must accept the responsibility for decisions and the consequences of choice. Would you say in this day and age where people blame other people very commonly for things that they themselves have done, perhaps this horror in Aurora, Colorado, would be a basis for that? Is that difficult to get across?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to live that way. To say that I have to make good choices every day as best as I can, and maybe that young man made the best choices. They were terrible, but maybe they're the best he could have made. I would say our organization would be most curious as to how that occurred, how we could prevent it from occurring again. Not blaming him, not finding fault with him.
Exploring.
Certainly protecting society. I don't think we're that naive, but we'd like to understand it so you wouldn't create that horror again.
It was a horror. There's also a feeling of family that I felt and that you emphasize. How is that?
I think it's really interesting that most of the people that the parents of our Sunday school kids almost all come from religious backgrounds. So,
how interesting.
Because they've had a tradition on Sunday morning, or going to a Sunday school, usually church or synagogue or whatever, and they want that. They want that back. They want that structure. They want their kids to be instructed in how to make good decisions. So so our kids are educated are taught about all religions, and so hopefully they can make a good choice. They're taught about decision making and logic,
Yeah, that's important. That's very important. That feeling of family gives you the, if you will, privilege or luxury of disagreeing with one another and still being friends, right?
Usually.
Usually, but
we are a congregation. We care for each other. If people get sick, we have people that visit them. And when people pass away, we hold funerals. Memorial services.
You have funerals and weddings.
Right. Technically we're a church in the state of Illinois.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you have to do that
in order to for tax-wise and officially? Yeah, and we do what a church does. We try to inculcate moral values in people, and we try to support them in their times of need and celebrate their times of joy. And that's what a church does.
And one doesn't have to be registered to conduct a funeral. Is that right? But have you ever done that?
I have never officiated at a funeral. Okay. Our funerals are probably our memorial services, we call them, are a little more like maybe Quaker services. We kind of celebrate the person. We don't talk about them going to heaven or not going to heaven, but we really try to, we remember them as they were, and we believe that they exist in our memories. And that's what we concentrate on.
Let's talk about some or many of the speakers that you've had to speak. There's no one category.
There's no one category. We had him from, we had your husband,
who is a sports person.
A sports person, a well-known football referee. We have had physicists. We have had tons of economists, politicians, doctors, gay rights activists.
You have a very interesting September coming up.
Right.
We are still in July. Let's talk about some of the people who are coming.
We're going to open up with a fabulous lady. Her name is Lynn Solomon, and we are just really privileged to have her. Lynn is a lawyer, and lived in Florida for many years, and ran something called the Fraud Digest. She was very active in fraud, and she borrowed against her house and kept increasing her mortgage, as many people did. Found herself underwater, and her house was foreclosed on. And in her research, she discovered that the bank that foreclosed on her was not the bank that she had originally had a mortgage, and there was fraud and collusion when they transferred from one mortgage company to the next. As a result, Lynn got her house back, but more than that, she stopped every mortgage foreclosure in the country.
In the whole country?
And she was on 60 Minutes. It was an award-winning show. Her side was awarded $18 million. And
just her?
She got half of it. She had a check for $9 million a few weeks ago, which she's giving a whole bunch of it away to charity. She's a very, very neat lady, and she should be just.
Hooray! So you can beat the system.
She could beat him. She is one ethical lady. She's very cool.
I bet she is. I bet she is.
And then we're having University of Chicago professor, and I slipped his name, but he's a physicist, and he was Chicago's representative at that CERN project that discovered the God particle.
Is that right?
So that should be really cool.
How do they react when they come to be with you?
Well, we're just amazed that these huge names will come to this little organization. I think they like it because we have, after the person talks, we have the question and answers, and our audience are informed people and curious people, and everybody's welcome. Every Sunday.
You don't have to sign up. We just come.
It
Is
just
that
comes.
Right?
Sunday mornings, 10:30. Somebody described us recently as the best, basically, free lecture series in Chicago. So
that's wonderful. Let's see. You have all kinds of speakers. Your congregation is kind of church-based, but I don't mean in ritual or ceremonies. Why? Because you've mentioned that recently about you have a church-like atmosphere. Is that wrong?
I'd say we call it a meeting house atmosphere.
Oh, okay.
It's not church-like because we have no leader. Okay. Some ethical societies have leaders. We do not.
Within your event?
We have none. We have a president of the board, but that just does fiscal things like that. But no. But every Sunday, one of the members introduces the speaker. The speakers are, except for the summer, are not members.
Okay.
There is no homily. There's no lecturing from a pulpit.
So there's no service. There's no sermon.
There's no sermon from the mountain in our place.
And nobody misses that, I bet.
I don't think so. There are a few people who would actually,
because they're used to it.
Within our organization, really would like a homily, and there are some ethical societies that do have leaders. And so there's a lot of freedom within the organizations, which is really neat, which is really nice as well.
Having leaders, isn't that kind of against or opposite of your congregation? How do you feel about that? Having leaders.
Personally, I don't like. I would prefer not, but there are members that would like it. This is totally my own opinion and not the organization.
No, I understand.
Every organization that I belong to, once there's a leader, there's the ins and there's the outs, and you wind up having two organizations, and then there's all kinds of, as we would say.
Yeah, that's not very good. You've mentioned that Jane Addams was on your board for a while.
Yeah,
what was her role?
She was I think it was an assistant board member, an adjunct board member. when this organization first started, it did some really neat things. The kindergartens in New York were started by the Ethical Society. And that was the first free kindergartens.
Oh.
Visiting Nurse Society was started by the Ethical Society. And then the civil rights, we did a lot of voter registration, and so we can't be political because we are a church, but we can be very, very strong for human rights. So we've had commitment ceremonies for gay people for many, 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 many years.
Well, do you think she influenced or promoted as a public person? She really has been the leader in social service. It was very important that she, whatever liaison she was with you, was important, don't you think?
Right, that's what we were, though. You know, we also worked in New York with other settlement houses. So you know, that's what the Ethical Society is about. It's about helping other people. So it's
ethical. What does that mean?
Oh, ethical. Somebody once defined ethical as, actually, it's one of the first time I ever attended, and they said the difference between ethical and moral is moral says thou shalt not lie, and ethical says, well, it depends. So if the Nazi knocks on your door and says, is somebody hiding your attic, and you're a moral person, you have to say, yes, they are, because thou shalt not lie. An ethical person says, of course not. Nobody's hiding in my house. So ethical means you have to make a decision based on the best you can do for people around you, and no simple moral code always works.
So it's individual again.
It's individual, but based on societal needs. And it's not based on selfishness.
But what about human needs as well?
Yeah, I mean it's about humanity. I mean, our word humanist is human, so we're human.
Can you describe what this has done for you by being a part of this
for me? Oh, it's
society?
Been great. It's been great.
How so?
First of all, I've learned just so much stuff. I've learned stuff, you know, things about economics and science and, you know, and biology and all that. But I also, as a non-joiner, I wound up with a wonderful set of friends, and I wouldn't have had that. It's also, since it's been a place where our wife and I can go because we have different kind of beliefs in theology. I mean, she's much more traditional, and it works. So
but it works.
It works. It's great. It's great. It's fabulous.
You've said something about out of your heart, out of my heart. What did you mean by that, as far as you're being part of this new way of living, really? I think it's a future. I think it's the way of the future. I have grandchildren of color. This is the place that they could go. You know, nobody's different. Everybody in being different is the same. So it's a warm. Yeah, we've been talking about the lectures, but we also have movie groups, and we have Saturday night coffee houses, and we have retreats in the summer, and the kids go over to Emily Oaks. Emily Oaks Center.
Yeah, so and we have like any other organization, we have fun nights for the kids and potlucks and book groups and little kids fairs and do all that kind of stuff. So it's, in a lot of ways, it's very traditional. It's fun.
How interesting. How have your grandchildren told you about what they love about?
My grandkids went for a few years at Sunday school, and it was good for them.
They did.
And they really liked. We've had retreats in Lake Geneva, and in the dunes, and that's been great for the kids. So it's a nice way, a good place.
Matt, thank you so much for being with us, and you're very inspirational, and certainly the life you live is very inspirational and very wonderful.
I'm really honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. We're honored to have you.
I hope people come and visit us.
Let's hope so. Let's want that. And we want to thank you, and thank you for sharing. We'll see you next time on Contempo. Bye-bye.
That was fun.
Isn't it fun?
It's a good place.